All right, we're still in mock-up stage here, guys, but we got our wheel pivot bracket just tacked up. Just got a couple tack welds on here, just in case we change our mind. All right, we got a spacer there. So this is kind of what we're scheming on. Sorry, I'm just handheld here. So we're going to have an end plate here with a bearing pivot hole, and we'll have a rod go all the way through. So the idea is we'll be able to pivot these wheels to lift the machine. And I'm still trying to figure out what method to do to use that. I got this piece of flat bar here, so I'm thinking we could probably come up with something like this. This is just idea number one. That would be a lever, and we can pull up and then have a pin or something that'll go through the leg to hold it when it's in the up position. So that's idea one. I'm also looking at, I got some tubing and a long piece, and these go together. So I could make a socket that would go on here, where I could just drop the arm in when I need to use it. Same idea, you know, use it like a lever. I'm kind of liking this idea. Use it like a lever, pop it in, raise your machine up, have a pin that you go through, one hole drilled in the leg to hold it. Do your wheeling, move it around, drop this back down, pull it back out, it's out of the way. Kind of liking that. So I think we're good with the wheel bracket here. I think I'm just going to go ahead and finish welding that up, and then that'll be enough for today. And then our design is progressing. So we've got our wheel carrier mocked up. Actually, it's farther than mocked up. It's all welded up. Okay, so the idea is it's going to go like that. And I gotta figure out where I want these hinge plates to go. I'm going to drill them first, and then maybe round the corners or angle the corners. We don't know yet. And then we'll get them tacked on there, make sure everything works before we do the final welding. Okay, so we're making some progress. We're still designing on the fly, and I'm liking it so far. I think this is actually going to work. Okay, so I've been checking the setup here and determining how far out to bring these hinge points so that we don't get any binding. So we'll just test it on the edge of the bench here. And I put a couple scribe lines. I already did this. I just want to show you guys. So let me line up with my marks. Okay, right there. Hopefully you guys can see okay. So now there's enough room for this to pivot down and not bind. I mean, I'm trying to keep it as close as I can. Right there's where my marks are. So we've got that much travel before we hit in the back, and I think that'll be fine. Just looking down here, I mean, that's raising it up off the floor almost an inch, and that'll be plenty of elevation, you know, to move it around. So I think that'll be good. I'm gonna get these tacked on, and then we'll give it one more check before we do any final welding. All right, don't look too close to me. Close at my welding job here, guys. I'm still getting comfortable with that MIG machine, so it's a learning process. All right, let me get that tacked up. I got some spacers under here to simulate how far we can go up with the travel that we have here. And I think we're good. We got about 1 inch of elevation. That should be plenty. Well, not the prettiest welding job, but I think it'll hold. All right, time for paint. Okay, so I transfer punched, drilled and tapped for our attaching studs, and I think I put these in the wood stove last night. These were hardened studs, and they're coarse by fine. I'm using the fine side in our bracket here to get as much contact area as possible. So just cut this off, cleaned it up, and what I'll do, I'll come back with some Loctite. We're going to Loctite those in, but yeah, I think that'll work fine. Before we get started today, I noticed the neighbor was having a everything free garage sale, so I had to go look. There wasn't very much man stuff, but I did find a brand new full can of Sterno fondue fuel, which is denatured alcohol. We can use that. And I don't know what this originally would be, but that's a parts cleaning basket to me. And one of these little hacksaw handles. All right. So we got our studs Loctited in. That worked out good. They're flush with the bottom. We offset our wheels a little bit because, you know, we want to keep them to the outside to give us more stability. Just use some flat washers just to space that out. So I tried gluing on some little rubber pads with I used airplane glue. I don't know where the tube went. It's around here somewhere. And that was a miserable failure. It just peeled right off. So I'm gonna probably, when we're done today, I'll do this overnight. I'm gonna try RTV. I'm gonna glue these on, something like that. A couple dabs of RTV, and we'll put a weight on there and see if that holds, because this stuff did not. All right. Okay. So we did jump the gun slightly. Well, maybe not on doing the painting. Just use a little Rust-Oleum rattle can. So why this color? Well, 2 reasons. My wife brought home she found, I don't know where she found it, a whole box of free spray paint. So that was reason number 1. And reason number 2, we'll cut to a clip here, is these were the colors that were available. So this was the obvious choice. And of course the free part. The next thing is I've got to attach some type of operator lever so that when we want to go up on the wheels, we'll have some type of a lever that will push the wheel assembly down and raise the machine up off the floor. So that's our next step. So I'm going to go and bolt this on to the frame and then start scheming on something. Okay, we're in our design review mock-up again. So I've got the wheel frame temporarily attached, and just coming up with some different options for doing the lifting apparatus. So my first thought process was to use something like this, a piece of flat bar. I want the handle to be removable for obvious reasons. You don't want it in the way. And to try to make a socket for something like this to slip into, not that easy. So I don't think we're going to go that way. Alright, so my next thought process was to use I've got a bunch of this square tube. This pretty heavy wall. I think it's what is that, 16th? Let's take a reading here. 1/8 inch wall. So this is pretty stout. So my other thought was, you know, use this, make some kind of a socket that would slip into, lift it up, pin it to the leg, and when you're all done moving the machine, lower it down, take it back out, and everything's good. Well, I didn't have anything to make a socket that would fit this. So then I got to look and I go, hey, wait a minute, that looks like 1/2 inch ID. So I grabbed a piece of 1/2 inch key stock, and it doesn't fit perfectly, but it can be made to fit. Okay, so I worked on it a little bit. You know, you got to take that seam out. The inside is not perfectly square, but you know, that's workable. Okay. So then what do you do? Right, so you maybe weld that on like that. Stick your rod in, and then you can lift it up. Okay, so let's take this block out. So there's our lifted position, something like that. Can you guys see okay? And then you would put a pin or a bolt through to hold it while you're moving your machine, and then when you're all done, lower it down, take the pin out, pull the rod out, and all you have sticking out is that. Okay. I think this would be strong enough. I mean, it's 1/2 inch square, might work, but I don't have a lot of this. So then I went out to my material rack, and I've got a whole bunch of this. What is this? 3/4? 5/8. I got a whole bunch of this 5/8 square stock. So, and we can put it in the mill and knock one end down to 1/2 inch. So I'm kind of liking this idea. So same idea, right? When it's in the up position, and in this case I would leave it long, right? So that when you're not using the wheels, you could have a lower location for your pin. Put that in there, and then you can come in with your bar, because this will be milled down to 1/2 inch. Slip your bar over, lift it up, get the machine off the ground, and then have a pin and be able to remove this, get it out of the way, and then use it to lift the other side. That way you only need one of these, you don't have to leave it in place. This is a little short. We need to add probably another inch. I got plenty of this material. The only negative is when you're not running it, it's going to be sitting like this. You'll have that, an inch longer be sticking out. But you know what? I don't think that's a problem. And if it's in the way, you could still knock the hinge pin out here and just take the wheels off. We do have to drill 2 holes in our leg, but I think that'll be okay. Anyways, that's the direction I'm thinking of going. So I'm going to study this a little bit longer, and I think that'll be the plan. So here's our piece of stock. We got it milled down to 1/2 inch square on this end. That's our plan. Okay. And we'll do the same thing when we get to the front. We'll probably do the same thing, but we'll put this on the opposite corner so that you're not interfering with the two. And we should be able to just use one cheater bar. That way we only have to look for one lost bar instead of 2 when it comes time to move the machine. Alright, so I'm just going to lay out this hole. Much easier to drill than tap it now when I can take it over to the mill. And then we'll have to clean our paint off and get that welded. Because this is tube steel, it should have plenty of torsional strength so that we only need the lifting rod on one side. And this shaper is not going to be that heavy. If this is on a heavy milling machine or lathe or something, then we'd probably want to use some type of jacking screw in place of just a lever. So it's the middle of the day on Sunday. We got our weld prep done and mock-up done. We're ready to tack this on. I'm going to try to get this burned in before the ARW discussion starts here in a little bit. All right, we're ready for some assembly. Seems to be working. Same thing, it's a little tight. Probably ream both those holes. Okay. All right, so I like that. And I already tested this once, so obviously. But it was before doing the transferring and drilling these holes. Okay. All right, so here's our handle. All right, this is just some shrink wrap, and that's the only color I had. But at least it'll be easy to spot it. All right, come around. All right, so the idea is, let me make sure you guys can see here. Move over a little bit. The idea is you just slip the handle on, okay? And of course you'll be standing up, but you're lifting up, so you're helping lift the machine at the same time. And we just lift it off the ground, run our pin down, like so. Pull your handle out. We'll have a similar mechanism for the front. Take the handle over there, raise the front up, and you're ready to roll. I did have my neighbor come over, and I had him stand on this end. He's a pretty good sized guy. And I mean, literally, I was able to lift it up with him standing on there with one finger. So I think when the shaper's on there, it's going to be just fine. So yeah, so right now I'm really happy with the way it's looking. Just going to ream those holes a little bit, and then we'll get started on doing something similar for the front. The front is going to require some swivel casters, so I've already kind of mentally got a design figured out. Instead of tubing, it'll just be angle, which will be able to allow room for some swivel casters. Okay, all right, let's move on. Just checking how it rolls. Yeah, I think that's going to be great. Just got to do the other side.